Oh, hey, thanks for popping in. I hope that you're having a good day. It is a pleasure to have you show up today. So, thank you. As always, subscribers, commenters, people that like the video, I appreciate you so much. People that's just popping in from time to time and ain't quite ready to commit because, you're not ready yet. That's okay. That's okay. I'm glad you're here, regardless. So, just thank you, per usual, as I continue to work on growing this space and finding my consistency, finding my wave. Y'all are still here, and it means so much. So, thank you. Hugs and kisses for y'all. So why am I here? I am here. I'm gonna try to make this as painless as possible. I really just want to have a quick conversation about my takeaways from Cardi's album. And I'm not a music review person by any means. You know that we're gonna have a conversation about the psych stuff. It's what we do, right? So um yeah. So tune in, buckle in, all that good stuff. If you find this stuff to be a little bit helpful, like this is one of those conversations that I think if you see value in it and if you feel like someone else is like needs it or they can use it, please feel free to share it with them. Just again, because I want to make sure that, we spreading a good word around here just to be helpful. That's all. So Cardi's album. So she out here, she working hard, and she got the platinum pregnancy going on because you know how she do. Once she got a baby belly, she outside and she handling her business a little bit. Um, And like I said, we're here to talk about what I think that she might be thinking. And of course, please engage, share your comments, share how you relate. I would like to know that because we having a discussion here. That would be cool. Whatever you're comfortable with, of course. So she, of course, is going to talk about why she took so long to drop, right? And in all of these radio interviews and everything else, and even in the body of work itself, you get a hunch or there's an iteration of what she's saying in interviews, right? It's really cool to have this baseline of her just normal conversation versus her artistry, right? So you have the person and you have the brand, and I think that that's super dope. But going back to her talking about the length of time she took to drop this album. And as we know, the demon is in the details, right? So with Mr. Set, she gave us the idea of what was happening and how difficult it was for her. And a lot of people felt that. And me in particular, I'm going to keep it all the way stacked with y'all. I definitely was like, I'm not following, bro. I've been peeped that he was doing all the weird stuff with the bitches in his stories and whatnot to his music. And I'm like, you know what? That's his right. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a man. He doing what he doing. And he's single now. So he could do what he want to. And in that, I was like, yo, he cool. But then when I heard her talk about like what she was going through, I'm like, oh nah, son is fully an antagonist. So I was like, yeah, I'm cool on him. I definitely took him off the watch list. I'm like, yeah, we gonna holler at you, bro. But either way, there's another part of this where a lot of folks are talking about Cardi being pregnant, which is understandable. I would never knock nobody for just saying that it's a little quick, it's too soon, or whatever the case might be. But the truth of the matter is that have when people bumping uglies, like babies happen. So that's a byproduct. And I'll say this: I had a homegirl from back in the day, like grew up on the block, and shorty, like she was Spanish chick too, and niggas used to make jokes like, oh nah, we don't be playing with Spanish chicks too much because you laugh at them too hard, you breathe on them too hard, like they'll dead ass be pregnant. And that was like a running joke, and she was like the epitome or the butt of that joke. And short version of it is that it went from being like a joke that people was just kind of commenting on to being something that people use as a point of contention, like a justification to talk shit. And sure enough, she went ahead and she put up like a Facebook status to like address people that had shit to say. And she's something like 4 for 4 or 5 for 4 or something like that. Like, cause she was having babies. She was in relationships and whatnot. Relationships didn't work out and she had kids. She kindly let niggas know, like, she said something along the lines of, I want to be a mother and I love my children. And if we counted how many times you bitches went to the chop shop, we will be in the same boat. So stop talking about me. And I said, okay, sis. And I'm gonna keep it hot. She ain't lying. So in regards to Cardi and old boy like Steph getting into it and doing their thing, I'm like, yo, they rich, they healthy people, and I'ma just wish them the best. And I'm trusting that they're gonna do great things. I expect them to be responsible because they got the means to just handle their business and they got to hold on to being intentional about handling their business. So I'm just going to speak power over their life because that's what I would want people to do for me. It's just that simple. Um, but going back to Cardi telling her story and her being vulnerable, and there was something about this conversation about all the stuff that she went through and people kind of shitting on her accolades and everything else, and this constant battle of proving yourself, right? And it made me think about that notion of we're never enough, right? Like we always got more to do. We always chasing that fallacy of there's something else that needs to be done. There's some other aspect of yourself that needs to be quantified, qualified, and all of these things. And while there was a part of me that focused on, spousal dynamics as well, and just the frustration of chasing a nigga's potential, honestly, chasing the potential, chasing the promise, like I got pissed the hell off thinking about that shit because it's just way too much shit that I let slide just in my time of dealing with people. And then it went a step further. And I thought about the fact that I'm like, yo, it's not just spousal dynamics. Like this shit kind of happens to me in a lot of different spaces. So I want to talk to y'all about black fatigue. And the thing about black fatigue is that in my perspective and in being in these classes and learning about psychology, it is very much parallel and similarly or seemingly synonymous with the emergence or the onset of something like borderline personality disorder. And the reason that I want to be the person that brings this kind of stuff up or brings this together a little bit is because I want us to feel safe and not stigmatize certain things, such as mental health conditions. Specifically because if you grow up in a house, you grow up in a building, you grow up anywhere, like, and say like there's water damage someplace and there's mold that develops. If you grow up in that spot and the mold is coming through the vents, over time of exposure to this thing, you may develop bronchial issues. It can look something like asthma. It could look like sensitivity to things like the bacteria that makes you develop pneumonia, things that bronchitis, constant infections in the bronchial tube. So if we're not stigmatizing that, we also need to understand the relevance or the importance of if you're exposed to traumatic events, difficult events, you will have the onset or a byproduct of mental health concerns. Your genetics and your exposure will determine your outcomes. It's very simple. Mental health goes in it no different than, say, asthma would. So I want us to really come away from that so that we have space and opportunity to talk about these things safely and move forward, practice accountability, and not end up in this spiral or better yet, like the snake eating its own tail. Because I'm gonna keep it hot. Like I saw myself kind of going through this a little bit where I'm like, I feel like I'm chasing something, but I don't know what I'm chasing, but I also feel like I'm running away from something at the same time. And I'm feeling like if I have the capacity to make some sense of what I'm going through, if God gives me a little bit of consciousness in a specific space, I want to be able to share it with y'all and hopefully it's helpful. Kind of like, Hove did that. So hopefully you don't gotta go through that. My bad. So again, getting past the spousal stuff, but let's talk about these bosses. And I want to talk about the workspace because work and jobs takes up so much of our day to day and our time, but we sleep on its impacts because this is where I'm having some tough time. Right. So first things first, I have my SHRM CP. Now, the SHRM is pretty much the Society of Human Resources Management Certified Professional Certificate, right? So it's just a piece of paper. You take this test. The test is expensive, and you do this course and whatnot. And in short, you take this test, and it says that you are proficient in the skills of human resource management. And they have a certified professional, and then they have a senior certified professional, and it's just the difference of if you're doing something locally versus globally and that sort of thing. It's not super significant, but short story, really, really complicated. I got this certificate because I was working with and for a founder of an organization, and I was reporting directly to this founder. But this founder had built up his organization with this chief that he met. Now, he met this chief, of course, prior to making him the chief, and they developed a relationship. And the chief was like, well, if you bringing me, then you got to bring my bitch. Not a bad deal. Like, this is what y'all do. It's cool. It's whatever. Like, I'm not hating. That's what it is. Now, The thing about this chick that he was fucking with was is like she had a tendency, like, and of course, like I came well after the fact. So they were established as a dynamic, as a clique. I show up and Shorty just had this tendency to say shit about me. Like, I don't think she understands. It was always this constant little like underbelly of like, I'm not sure if she's sure. So regardless of who's singing my praises, regardless of what I'm correcting, whatever I got going on, it's always this bitch that's just like, I'm not sure if she understands. And of course, if she got a fucking problem, guess who else is looking for a problem? Her motherfucking man. Cool. So I'm not cool with this type of shit because I'm like, yo, if you see something that you feel like you can address or you feel the need to address, you can address me because I'm not above reproach. But here was the trick about it, right? Like, this was a shorty that went from being a stay at home wife to a single mom because her nigga left her to working in a specific space where she met this dude, this chief who was married, to being his side bitch, to being his main bitch, and now being a part of this organization like she's somebody that got something going on. And I'm like, why the fuck do you keep talking about me? Let's take it a step further. In this particular dynamic, amongst the four of us, I had the most, let me see. I'm gonna take that back. I won't say that I had the most education because I had my bachelor's and I might give them room that they may have had their masters. May have. Strong on the may have. I had the most work experience because the chief had done one specific sort of job. The founder had always been an entrepreneur, so he never worked in a space. And as I said about Shorty, she ain't had no job either because she was dead ass like just a stay at home mom. Like that was her life and her livelihood. So here I am in this group, and for whatever reason, I gotta prove myself. And so I was given a series of responsibilities, and I actually did a short about this before, where I was promised a series of things. I was promised a particular increase or a particular amount of a particular amount of an increase, and they changed it. And this was the instance where they changed it, right? So I did this thing, and it was about five or six other things that I had to do, and I had checked all of these boxes, had it done, and they decided to decrease my increase, and I was like, yeah, that kind of sucks. So it started to turn into this certification was not about uplifting me, it was about disqualifying me. And when I think about that, it made me think of how many women of color, black women, are degreed up. And I'm like, yeah, the reason that we have degrees is because credentials is always a reason that we are disqualified. It's that constant nitpicking of, oh, you don't have this. Oh, you could have gotten this. And yeah, we really would have paid you more. And, oh man, Sarah, like, I wish I could do more for you, but I just can't because it's that shit. So the cool thing is though, right? Like, so they paid for this certificate. And what was tough about them paying for it and when I got it done, it went from you think she's gonna pass to, well, now that she has it, do you think she's gonna leave with it? It was like you're sifting, you're sussing, you're fighting to just have a problem. So there was no celebration about me pulling it off. It was not like, oh, this is so great, this is fantastic, or whatever the case might be. It was straight like, yo, you put me through mad shit, didn't give me the increase that you promised me, and then was like, well, what if she leaves with it? Bro, why did you put me in this situation if this was going to be the problem? But again, I don't believe that the intention was to uplift me, but to disqualify me. And this is the recurring theme in this kind of situation, right? So even though I had operational skill, even though I have HR skill, wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. So when I quit that job, because I did end up quitting that job, and I'm gonna be very honest, that was a transition that was out of the frying pan into the fire type shit. Like it wasn't a good look, but like I was leaving because I felt like enough is enough type shit, right? So But I quit that job and they wanted me to come in, the same group. They was like, yo, you should come in and let everybody know and blah, 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 rally, pep talk, this, that, and the other. I was like, absolutely the fuck not. I'm not doing none of that. Y'all can suck my nuts on game. And another person that I was cool with recorded the announcement because I there was select people that knew what was happening and knew that I was leaving before I told the executives because I'm like, yo, just brace yourself because it was cool. So when it came time for them to meet up and everything else, this person recorded the reaction. They was like, yo, we just want to let you know Sarah left the job. Complete silence. Nobody would talk. And then shortly after that, let me not say shortly, let me not toot my horn too much. But sometime after that, the organization went to shit. They had to slice all of, damn near all of their staff. Um, I shouldn't grin. That's not appropriate. But yeah, it kind of went the way that it went, and yeah, it happens. But like I said, I wish I could tell you that this was a one-off type of situation, but it wasn't. And like just on some random shit, like I remember being out with some friends and like it was a friend of a friend type of situation, and Shorty was talking to me about something. She was ranting about something, and I was like, "Are you sure that this is that?" And she was like, "Watch, Sarah, I'm gonna prove you wrong." And I'm like, "Bitch, why?" Like I just asked you a question, and it's the type of shit that I really would like. I'm not saying nothing to nobody no more because every time I say something, it doesn't matter if it's a question, if it's suggestive, but then when I don't talk, people want you to give insight. They want you to tell them. They want to be implied or intrigued or compelled by what you have to say. And it was like, yo, I'm tired of trying to figure this out. And this element of it, this is the black fatigue. The notion of like, I'm just tired because nothing is enough. It's always something. So I went ahead and I looked at the definition of black fatigue. And black fatigue is defined as a cumulative physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion experienced by black people due to chronic exposure to systemic racism, microaggressions, and racial injustice. Now, we've had plenty of conversation about conditioning, and people are just taught to see us in a certain way. So, because they see us in a certain way, every time we do something that's outside of that box of how they see us, they kind of have their realities cracked just a little bit, right? So they become contemptuous and sometimes even indifferent. And I think indifference would be a little bit easier to deal with. But the problem is that we often get this kind of angry response. Hence, for instance, there's young men being hung right now with this whole Charlie Kirk thing. I'm like, so Charlie Kirk gets shot by a white guy as a white guy, and black people are in danger. Remember, we talked about this because when frustration looms, there needs to be an outlet to release on. And here we are, the punching bags. So now we've heard of them also say stuff like death by a thousand cuts. The reason why black fatigue is so significant, the reason why this kind of conditioning is so significant is because if you take too many of these little hits, at some point, you're going to just feel completely and grossly overwhelmed. This component, though, this reoccurring exposure to some sort of injustice or discomfort or aggression, this is where you have this emergence or this onset of borderline personality disorder. Now, borderline personality disorder, I looked up the definition for that one so I can give y'all something clean, is a mental health condition characterized by pervasive patterns of instability in mood, self image, and interpersonal relationships. I'm not trying to be, cold or anything like that. But if you think about somebody like a Cardi who struggles with who she was and why she's doing what she's doing, and if she should continue and coming out with the second album, even me myself, where I get into certain spaces and I ponder, should I be doing this? Am I taking it too far? Who do I think I am? This instability in my self image is an important component. And this is a byproduct of constantly being picked at repeatedly over and over again. You see, what's tough about BPD, because we're going to call it BPD moving forward, is that these kinds of things have comorbidities, and you can have mood disorders such as depression. You will hear Cardi talk about this stuff where she mentions, like, yo, I tell myself I'm taking 2 months, and before you know it, 8 months done went by. She talked about it in the song where it's like, yo, it's the magic of bitches showing up in your phone and you constantly lying to me. It does something to you and it brings you down, right? Anxiety, where you're always worried about what's going to happen next. I myself find myself that when something comes up, I need to be anxious or worried about what's to come based on what I've experienced in the past. Eating disorders. Y'all see that I'm a fluffy, but it happens. Don't judge me. Post traumatic stress disorder and other personality disorders, as well as the good one, substance abuse. We get good and hyper fixated on, there's sexual addictions, there's drugs, there's all types of stuff, there's liquor, and this is because you need something to help you cope. So let's talk about why this is important to me. And it's because I've been thinking about, like, I was going through my pictures and I was like, yo, I felt like I did more than I did this year. So it's not to say that I didn't do nothing, but I remember once upon a time I had this capacity to just do so much more. And then what dawned on me was not just what I had done, but how I felt during the times that I was doing certain things, right? So I realized that I was surviving the baseline and really constantly beating down my catastrophic thoughts, like all the time. Like when I see old pictures of myself, immediately I remember, like, y'all remember really worrying about this thing at this time. And it floods back. It comes forward. And I'm like, this is different. And one of the things that I've done in the past that was really helpful to get past difficult times was fasting, right? And it's because it kind of unpacks all of the vulnerabilities that I'm not really dealing with because I'm self indulging, right? So that I don't have to deal with it, right? And this time around, it just didn't feel like it works or it's working or that I can stick to it because it feels a bit stronger. It feels a bit deeper than it has been before. So I'm talking to God about it, and God gave me a little bit of insight. And He told me to sit with my triggers, figure out what's the thing underneath the bad situation. Like, what are you still holding on to? And I had to have a little bit of an intervention with myself. And I don't know, as a side note, did y'all watch the Charlie Sheen and the Jerry Springer documentary on Netflix? Boy was wilding. We gonna talk about that another day, but that's besides the point. Um, so this is what I got about these unrealized triggers, and I hope that it's helpful for you to think really deeply about this stuff. A trigger that I have is being unliked. And this is not because I need you to like me. It's that I've had too many instances in my life where people not liking me was justification for them to do some foul shit that I didn't appreciate, or I felt like I can't manage this, right? So that started very early on, right? Like that started in childhood, and that's a lot of unpacking, but it followed me into adulthood and it led me to a number of relationships that had this people pleasing thing. But it wasn't just people pleasing, it was almost exclusively attached to people that had fractures that I believed could be adjusted or addressed with love because I had a tendency to show up in ways that I would hope people would show up for me. But reciprocity is not guaranteed, and that shit doesn't feel good. Another thing that I really don't like is feeling dumb. I'm sure by now that y'all understand, like I write all of this stuff down and everything else because of this one instance. I don't like stumbling over stuff. I don't like sounding too crazy. Like I don't have coherent thoughts because it becomes, again, this reason for people not to like you and a justification for people to be abusive. I don't have no time for that because I also have this very unhealthy relationship with anger. I have a tendency to blow a little bit of a fuse, but this is because I'm always just kind of keeping shit to myself, right? Another thing that has come up, right, is the notion of not looking the part. Now, while I show up in this space all the time, doing a little bit less, if you look back at my older videos, I almost made it a point to always show up kind of done up. And in this space in my life, it feels a bit more daunting and I can't do it. But there's something that's happening there because I'm operating in this pendulum. We're going to unpack that at another time. But it was because when I was a kid, you know, family would say shit like, oh, no, we're not doing that for you because you don't know how to take care of stuff. And so when I don't look the part or I don't have certain things, anything like that, it's related to that same thing of it's your fault that you don't have this stuff. I'm like, well, that's not a good thing. And I've gotten older and I understand that the real problem was is that we was actually poor and it was mad of us. But the childhood or the kid in me that built my brain or my wiring for that thinking process, I can't go back and just undo it. I have to out condition it. I have to unravel it with a new neurological thinking process. It's another complicated thing. And last but certainly not least, which is something that I tend to do, is isolate, right? So being alone has this connotation of being a byproduct of me not being likable. So a lot of this stuff kind of circles back to, you're not likable. And it's not that I believe that I'm not likable. It's that my experience with people not liking me has yielded those people that don't like you being unkind to you. So this creates this hypervigilance and this expansive people pleasing, and it yields isolation. But this is what I mean when I say the snake is eating its tail, because every time I show up, it is a reiteration of something that impacts me adversely. This is the stuff that I want us to think about, right? The inner kid that did all of this work learned to work hard and be a good girl, and things would work out. And when I spent my life doing exactly that to earn my keep and fixing the surface, it worked for a while, but then suddenly things started to break, right? So I got to the point of being likable, but then being likable also drew animosity. It did the same thing. It wasn't like, oh, you became this fan favorite and all of a sudden you didn't have people that was talking shit. No, that didn't happen. It as a matter of fact, it was the most devastating thing to realize, like, yo, it doesn't matter how cool you are. It doesn't matter. Like, you can't outlove somebody that's fixated on being mean. You cannot love somebody into their highest heights or their unrealized success. You cannot be any version of person that will make somebody be better. People choose to be who the fuck they are. And when that started to happen, I found myself kind of regressing back to this kid because now I'm feeling unsure. That is where the anxiety, the fear, the worry starts to perpetuate, because it's like, yo, I thought I knew what I was doing, but there's some spaces where I'm like, yo, I don't think I know what the fuck I'm doing. And this life of compartmentalizing, again, it was helpful until that stuff started to fester, because I thought that putting it in a cement box in the back of my mind meant that it wouldn't have any life no more, that eventually it'd be suffocated out. But no, it still had a life, and it still brought me to people that mirrored the people that created the monsters that I was trying to bury in the first place. And that type of shit is the perfect recipe for stuff like imposter syndrome, self sabotage, anxiety, isolation, avoidance, fear of failure, rejection, and abandonment, and this element of running from accountability, because now all of my healthy habits and all of the positive changes that I've made have this maladaptive connotation, because I was always doing shit to prove myself to people that wasn't shit. So now healthy habits are tied to fucked up people. And I'm like, damn it, how am I supposed to now go back to healthy habits, unpack all of this stuff and deal with it and rewire it. And I say that to say, in this wild ass full circle moment, that despite all of it feeling like it was absolutely in vain, I'm still here. So God definitely ain't done with me. I'm still showing up because I'm finding satiation in confidence and courage. Even if I'm not confident, just being courageous enough to do it. I see people like Cardi show up again, imperfect. I'm not saying I'm interested in being anybody's millionaire, rap star, famous, or anything like that, but I am interested in making sure that if I use my voice, that it reaches folks to make them believe, yo, you could fucking do it. And I don't care what it takes. You do it and keep doing it. And even if you don't believe that you could do it, be honest enough to say that I don't feel like I could do it, but you know what? I want you to do it. Especially if you got kids. This is why I like Cardi. This is why I like Meg. I'm like, these is two bitches. I'm like, yo, the world gets up and kicks they back in whenever they get a chance. And they say, you're not going to put me down. And I want us to be courageous enough to reflect on some of the stuff that we've done in the spirit of, if I do this, will this change this? And realize that, you know what, like me, the degree, the certification, the weight loss, the weight gain, the everything, none of it changed people being better towards people like us, but we do not have to become them. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope that you smile a little bit more, just knowing that you're not in it by yourself. And sis, I'm rooting for you. So that's my TED talk. I need to go to bed too, because it's getting late. It's getting mad late. Don't give up on your grit. Keep at it. And I'll come back with some more stories about work stuff because I got a few. But I love y'all. Per usual. Thank you so much. Keep showing up. Bye.